So, the Mortal Kombat franchise has been around for over 30 years now. And I don't know, that seems like a lifetime ago. I was still like very young when the original game came out. And a lot of people remember the first set of characters, Liu Kang, Raiden, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Sonya, Kano, who are all still in they're still huge parts of like the storylines that we have today with the more recent games. And I remember back in the day, Reptile was a hidden character. He was non-playable. He was in the original Mortal Kombat 1 game, and he was more of a palette swap of Scorpion and Sub-Zero, opposed to being his own individual character because he had both their move sets. And I think you had to perform really well during like the arcade mode or whatever in order to fight him as a secret boss or what have you. But I feel like during that time period, Reptile was considered to be a big deal, especially when the original Mortal Kombat movie came out back in 1995. Um, a lot of people feel like the Mortal Kombat movies that came out back in the 90s were bad. I felt like the first Mortal Kombat movie from '95 was cheesy, but it's one of those films that you can watch over and over again. And one of the reasons why is because of the fight scene that Liu Kang had with Reptile that no one saw coming. And honestly, I felt like that was probably the best, fight scene in the entire film, depending on who you ask. And everything about it was memorable, like the soundtrack, the fight sequence, just the arcade announcer saying Reptile's name and until like he was defeated or what have you. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Mortal Kombat back in the day, um, it was something that hit different at the time because prior to it we never saw a video game franchise like it, and the characters for the most part seemed like they were larger than life. And um and I think it was one of those deals where like a lot of people didn't know how big Mortal Kombat was going to be when it first debuted in arcade centers back in 1992. And as far as like Reptile's concerned, I don't think people expected Reptile to become as big as he did back in the 90s. Because I think in Mortal Kombat 2 from 1993, he was actually his own character, had his own move set and everything. And the design that he got in Mortal Kombat 2 is probably his best design. But I feel like in general, Mortal Kombat 2 from back in the day had the best character designs. I feel like Mortal Kombat 3 was like a step backwards compared to what we got in Mortal Kombat 2 in terms of character designs. But I feel like back in the day, especially in the first three games, Reptile was a big deal. And by the time we got to Mortal Kombat 4, I feel like that's where the decline in popularity really started because first I think Midway had changed his character design, and I don't know, he looked more reptilian, but then it's just like he was an imbecile and a goof. And I remember like in Reptile's ending in Mortal Kombat 4, he got done dirty. Basically, he served Shinnok and his army only to be double crossed and killed by him in the end. And I don't know. I feel like ever since then, in just about every other game he's been involved in, he's just been a lackey or just, a punching bag or what have you. It hasn't been the same. I feel like his aura and his mystique had been extinguished significantly, like since like the 90s. And and to be fair, Reptile I believe he had betrayed Shang Tsung a couple of times in the past, and I think he also betrayed Shao Kahn. So I don't know, maybe it was just karma catching up with him, which is why Shinnok betrayed him. But he just wanted to bring his race back after they were killed or what have you. And and I don't know, I guess like, Shinnok, even though he was not the most, memorable villain within the Mortal Kombat franchise, he did do some heinous things. And I think like the last major game Shinnok was a part of or was a playable character in was Mortal Kombat 10 from 2015, which came out like that was like a decade ago. And it's crazy that, it's been, 10 years since 2015. And and yeah, I just feel like Reptile for the most part had been an afterthought for a long period of time, and I believe I believe he's in Mortal Kombat 1, and I think, he got like I think they changed his character and he has a new storyline, and I guess he's more relatable and everything, but I feel like the damage has been done already to his character in the sense where he's not what he used to be, and you can't really take him seriously like you did back in the day. And and a lot of people will go on record and say because of that, Reptile has been ruined. And what I mean by that is you look at his popularity, okay? He's not as popular as Scorpion is. He's not as popular as Sub Zero is. I feel like Scorpion is one of those characters that has always remained popular, like ever since like the beginning, it seemed like he was like I won't say like the main character of Mortal Kombat, but he was just a name that everybody knew, like even if you weren't a fan of the series, like people knew who he was, even more so than like Raiden. And obviously like Liu Kang for the most part has been the main protagonist, or Johnny Cage, depending on off of like what game or movie you're going off of. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, Scorpion has always maintained his popularity. Sub Zero has maintained his popularity. Reptile's popularity has just declined significantly over time. And, I feel like it's something that's a damn shame because I remember like back in the day when you fought secret boss characters, it actually meant something. And, and honestly, he was a challenging boss character in the original Mortal Kombat game. And then I feel like, I guess maybe because like he was the Green Ninja, he was supposed to be like tough or what have you, or he's supposed to be like, you know, harder than, just about every other character in the game. And I feel like that tradition kind of carried on with Jade when she made her debut in Mortal Kombat 2 as a secret, non-playable boss character. And the same thing with Jade. I feel like after Mortal Kombat 3, it's like her mystique had declined significantly, and she was never the same after that. And and yeah, I mean, I just feel like with the Mortal Kombat franchise, especially like with NetherRealm Studios and Warner Brothers, they're focusing more on new characters and I guess, character development on, the characters they've come out with within the past decade or so, whether it be Aaron Black, whether it be Sonya's daughter. Um, I just feel like they're trying to focus more on new blood, and they're trying to kind of, get away from keeping everything centered around the older characters, even though, we see them a lot in the newer games and there's a lot of emphasis on them and all that stuff. But but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like, Reptile is ruined beyond redemption, but yeah, he has been made to look foolish in a lot of games. And yeah, I feel like his popularity will never be the same as it was back in the day. But at the same time, I feel like he's relevant enough to a point where you can include him in, modern games and stuff like that. And and I feel like, he's a name that a lot of people who grew up with the older installments of Mortal Kombat. I feel like you can put him in like modern games, people know who he is, and I think it'd be something that would draw attention to those games and stuff like that, because I feel like in most of like the main series video games, NetherRealm Studios, they um they include a lot of like the older characters, and rightfully so, because without them nobody would really care. But yeah, I don't think Reptile has been ruined beyond redemption. It's just that he's been ruined to a point where I don't think he could ever be taken seriously like he was back in the '90s.